Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Town of Lexington's Planning Commission meeting. This is our normal monthly meeting. It's being held at 8 a.m. Wednesday, May 17, 2017. The meeting is being broadcast live and will air several times throughout the week on the town's informational channel. I am Keith Frost, Planning Commission Chair, and I'll ask the other members to please introduce themselves.
Good morning, I'm Frank Berry.
Good morning, Roscoe Kaufman.
Good morning, Sammy Hendricks.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Gibson.
Good morning, I'm Jeannie Michaels.
Good morning, I'm Jamie Fight.
Good morning, I'm Brooke Poole, Town Administrator.
Good morning, I'm Kathy Manis, Town Council Member.
Good morning, I'm Brad Cunningham, Town Attorney.
Good morning, Dan Walker, Director of Parks and Sanitation. Good morning, Charlie Thomas, Building Official.
Good morning, Randy Edwards, Director of Transportation.
Good morning, Steve Baker, Town Council.
Good morning, John Hanson, Director of Planning.
I'm Karen Henry, the Assistant Administrator.
All right, at this point, I'll ask Commissioner Gibson if she will lead us in invocation.
Heavenly Father, as we pause this morning to thank you for your goodness and thank you for your watch care over our lives, we ask for wisdom as we seek direction for our town. Lord, we ask for your guidance and protection over our country, for those that serve and protect us, Father. We just thank you for your goodness and all that you do for us. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. First item of business is deletions to our agenda. Just so that everyone's aware, item 1 and 2 under old business that relate to proposed annexation and site plan development for Zinker Road has been pulled at the request of the developer, and we will address that whenever he so chooses to bring it back to us. Meeting minutes from April 19, 2017, those were included in your packets. Do we have any corrections, additions, or changes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, so we will move down to first item of new business, which is site plan approval for the athletic fields at Northside Baptist Church. John?
Good morning. Northside Baptist Church has requested site plan approval for an expansion of their athletic fields on Jenny Lane. The project will be developed in 3 phases, beginning with a concession stand and a baseball field. Future phases will include the development of a football field with a track, 5 soccer fields, a softball field, a sports pavilion, and associated parking. It's my understanding that prior to the development of the new parking lots, parking at the school will be utilized. The project was withdrawn from the Commission's February agenda to allow the church an opportunity to provide a traffic impact study, a study that shows no impact to the AM peak hour traffic on Jenny Lane and no needed roadway improvements has been submitted. The planning assumptions used by the engineers for the traffic study and the parking for this project are based on peak usage occurring when and if 8 soccer games are being played on a Saturday morning. Given the significant amount of property in the project, as well as the amenities being proposed, it's conceivable for the complex to be used for multiple events at once and other than on Saturday mornings. The Commission may wish to consider these possibilities. Finally, the Commission should consider a requirement that the project include a curb and gutter sidewalk along Jenny Lane right-of-way to discourage roadway parking and enhance pedestrian safety. And there are representatives here from the north side that would be happy to discuss it with you further.
All right. All right. Are there any questions for John, or Randy Edwards is here this morning as well? Is there any questions for either of those two? All right, and maybe we'll see where it goes from discussion. I guess whoever's here from Northside, if you would please come forward and introduce yourself, I guess, and answer any questions that the commission may have.
I'm Gerald Lund with Pace Engineering representing Northside.
And I'm Scott Creed with Northside Baptist Church.
All right. Any questions?
Well, I guess it's in what John states is your traffic study was done on Saturday morning during a soccer game. However, your facility is used much more than just on Saturday morning. So I guess there's concern that that might not be an applicable traffic study to your entire facility, as it certainly is utilized more than just on Saturday morning for a soccer game. So what is your?
Well, to clarify, the study was done on weekdays, comparing peak hours to evening traffic.
Okay.
There are no soccer games going on there now, is that right?
That's right.
So there was no way to do it on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And the engineer who did the traffic study picked the soccer games as being the peak period, and showed that his conclusion was that there would be no impact, since those were off hours, that the peak period for Jenny Lane and the other streets around there was at other times on other days. But even the evening, Thursday evenings, Friday evenings for football, were not an impact to the traffic, which is peaks at other times.
Well, and I guess that's the question, is you seem to have picked a time, and which we realize from your assumption, your peak travel in and out of your facility may be on a Saturday morning with soccer games, but you also utilize it at other times which may coincide with Jenny Lane's peak traffic time. And I guess this commission's question is, how does that impact during those peak times? Not maybe during your peak, but during Jenny Lane North Side, during school hours, when the school traffic is heavy. How did the traffic study consider how your addition, which may be 30% of your Saturday morning, but how does that impact the traffic on Jenny Lane?
Well, then your issue is with this engineer and how he did the study.
Well, but you guys are here providing information about this project, so that's what I'm trying to figure out is what the study, how to address the peak time for Jenny Lane and what addition you may add during those times.
Well, would we have an event?
Yeah, I would just address this, that I'm assuming the peak times would be between 7 and 9 a.m. and then I would assume 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And we don't have any activities scheduled for that. The activities we would schedule would be the baseball games, which would be in the afternoons, and then the football games would be on Thursday, Friday at night. So I think during the peak times there wouldn't be any traffic.
Okay, so what you're indicating to us is you guys have no plans at this point or in the future to use these athletic fields between, say, 7 and 4? 7 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
Yeah, the only way we would use those is for like PE classes, and there would be no traffic at all. They would just simply walk from the church to the fields.
Okay, I mean, and that may help answer some of the questions. Right. I just, again, if you're not planning to have any athletic events between, where you have outside people coming between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m., which would coincide.
We do
then,
not.
Okay, if that changes, I guess the request I would have is that you would please contact Mr. Hanson or either Randy to have some discussion about updating a traffic plan, because at this point I don't think it includes that. And if it doesn't happen, that's great.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions that adequately address your question, Commissioner, about the traffic impact study? All right. I guess I did have one question, and I noticed on your site plan, a portion, or a large portion of the sidewalk that's included on Jenny Lane is set at the back of the right-of-way rather than a curb and gutter system on the edge of the road. Is there a specific reason why?
We did a couple different arrangements of the sidewalk, but the dilemma we ran into is the sidewalk can't be built because there's no one to maintain it. DOT won't take it and the town won't take it. The town won't take it if we put it on private property. The town won't take it if it's in the right of way. DOT won't take it either way either. So we decided the only way out was to pay the fee.
Is that correct, Brad, or?
Randy?
Looking at Randy.
Randy can
Randy,
speak.
sorry.
Randy.
I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, speak to that.
As shown, the sidewalk's shown on private property, and DOT won't maintain that. If the sidewalk is shown in their right of way and approved by them as part of their encroachment permit, they will maintain it. I mean, that's the way all business is done in this county, in this district. So, and that's kind of one of the reasons for the comment, was that the sidewalk needs to be out there with the travel way.
Okay. Which would, in some way, line up with some of the proposal for the Jenny Lane traffic improvements up towards 378, where there's going to be a curb and gutter system.
Yes, currently with the Jenny Lane widening project, our project will be extending the sidewalk from 378 down to Saluda Point Drive intersection. If part of their project, they extend the sidewalk from north side, the face of their project, we will have a small gap, small is a relative term, it's in the neighborhood of 1,000 feet, that at some point in time in the future, there could be connectivity, and then that entire triangle bordered by north side, Jenny Lane, and 378 would have continuous sidewalk at some point in time in the future. And so now is the time to actually get that sidewalk placed from north side to the east side of their property.
Okay.
So,
All right.
One
Thank
correction
you.
to that, DOT, as we were trying to get our encroachment permit working through it, said they would not take the sidewalk.
I guess I guess what I would ask is maybe, Randy, can you follow up and touch base? I guess part of our concern, and we talked about this significantly last time, is parking, is people parking on the edge of Jenny Lane. Unfortunately, what we're dealing with here is to some extent an after-the-fact approval. We're trying to manipulate a project that's already started and has been ongoing for several months. But I think we believe that, one, the curb and gutter system will tie into the planned expansion and roadway improvements that the town already has planned. Two, it will also aid significantly in preventing folks from parking on the side of Jenny Lane. And I think we feel like that's a strong requirement. And so I'm not sure what we need to do in order to try and address that, if we need to postpone. I hate to keep pushing this back, but I think that's going to be a significant hurdle for us to overcome. And if we need to wait another month to get some DOT approval or some clarification as to what their requirements would be or how we go about getting them to turn it over, I don't know what the answer to that is.
If I can interject.
Yes.
The ordinance says that they have to put sidewalk in. The issue has been whether they put sidewalk in on private property or on the roadway edge. The ordinance also says if the owner of the road does not allow it, then they have to pay into the fund. If they can, I mean, we obviously have some sort of miscommunication or whatever. If they provide us with something from DOT, and Randy talks with their DOT engineer, then we'll go back to letting pay into the fund. But we don't have, at staff level at this point, we don't have that information that would indicate that DOT would take.
Okay. All right. So we could.
What I would like the commission to clarify is it's got to be in the right of way. It's got to be curb and gutter, and it's got to be in the right.
Okay. So yes. So we could potentially craft a motion that would include the addition of the curb and gutter sidewalk in the right of way, or paying into the fund if that's not acceptable.
Right.
Okay.
Acceptable documentation.
Yes.
From DOT.
Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions? Excuse me.
I have a question.
Yes.
As far as the school goes and the church, obviously you're growing. What, do y'all have any future plans of more building as far as, because I know you're getting more students. Is there plans to build more school buildings at some point that would bring, what is your capacity for your future as population of the school? Are you just going to grow unended, or what's?
No, the church itself would dictate the size of the school. And so we would simply, at some point, we're going to be at capacity, and that's where we are.
Do you know what that capacity might
Well,
end up being?
Well, we have a waiting list now of 100 or so students, and we just continue to keep that waiting list. We don't have any plans today to build any more buildings.
Yeah, but I was asking if you knew of what your end goal is as far as your student population at some
Well,
point. Do you know how big you might get?
Our goal is not to be big.
No, okay.
That's not our goal, is to be the biggest school. Our goal is to be the very best school that we can be.
Right.
So we don't mind having a waiting list.
Okay.
You know, our goal is not to continue to build and build and build. Our goal is to just really, whatever the church capacity will be, that's the size of the school.
Well, and I guess to follow up on that, you said what the church capacity will be. Does the church have any type of master plan, any type of 20-year plan that would provide us some understanding of what your potential expansion plans or your goals are?
We are always, planning for the future, but we don't have anything formal to submit for any future plans, no, sir.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask that is, I mean, this has kind of been somewhat piecemeal from our standpoint of we were given indication there was a baseball field, and now we have a larger master plan. So I wasn't sure if there was any type of thought process or discernment that you guys were going through to figure out, where you're going to be in 10 or 15 years. And if that may help as we go through some of these discussions. But those can be worked through with John at a later date if you guys do decide to expand.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions?
Could I bring the sidewalk up again?
Yes, sir.
The question about that, the ordinance says a sidewalk, is that right?
Yes.
It doesn't say a curb and gutter sidewalk.
Well, that's what would be required to put a sidewalk on Jenny Lane. You have to put a curb and gutter.
The ordinance doesn't say curb and gutter though, right?
The ordinance says you have to put sidewalk in. If you're putting sidewalk in, DOT is going to require you to put curb and gutter in on that sidewalk.
Well, I had a drawing that had the sidewalk separate from the road. There was plenty of room for that, which was without curb and gutter. But the ordinance just says a sidewalk.
Well, and I guess it depends on where you put it, and I think what you're going to hear from this commission is we expect it to be in the road right away, which is going to fall back to what DOT requires you to do, which I think what John is saying is a curb and gutter.
The curb and gutter aspect of it also helps with parking.
Yes, completely, which again was what I said earlier.
But if I understand the ordinance too, there's that option to pay the fee rather than build a sidewalk.
Well, please, Brett.
There is an option in the ordinance to pay a fee, but it's not at the developer's option. It's if you cannot build a sidewalk, because sometimes DOT or the road owner will not allow you to build a sidewalk because they don't let you build a sidewalk that doesn't connect to anything. So you can't have what they call an orphaned sidewalk. You've probably been an engineer, you've probably heard that before. So if you go to the owner of the road and request it and they say, no, you can't put a sidewalk, at that point in time, you can pay into the fund. But it's not the developer's choice whether to pay into the fund or not. It's build a sidewalk is the requirement, and then if that requirement cannot be met, then you can pay into the fund.
I didn't know the ordinance said that. I was thinking the ordinance had that as a line item, as a choice. It didn't say if there were some reason not to.
Yeah,
that you couldn't face it.
That's the way it works.
But is that, the ordinance doesn't say that. I just want to clarify.
I'd have to read the exact language.
But we had reached the point where we were reconciled. The only thing to do was pay the fee.
Well, and I think what you're hearing from us is at least the discussion we've had so far, we haven't taken any votes, but from the questions that you've been asked and the commission has proposed, I think if you're looking for us for an approval, I think that's going to be a requirement. At least that's my opinion, and now maybe the rest of the group has a different opinion, but I think that's going to be the expectation. So, that may be where we're at. Again, Brad, I guess we can, as part of this, you going back to working with DOT to see what they will allow and won't allow, we can clarify and go through the ordinance and provide you whatever information that you need to justify that the town has the ordinance that requires a sidewalk to be installed unless otherwise it can't be. So, and I think that's the way it's always been applied.
I think Brad's got the wording.
Yes, sir.
So the ordinance does specifically say, should the owner of the street not allow sidewalks to be constructed, at that, and then blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
which Pay into the fund. So yes, that is exactly what it says.
Okay.
And that's the point we're at right now.
Yes, well, at this point, I think we've got to follow up with some of those discussions, because I think that's very unusual from our perspective to find DOT say we're not going to allow you to put sidewalks in the right of way. That, matter of fact, complete the opposite. It seems like they generally want them.
Well, just for clarification, I mean, we, on our project, which is 1,500 feet north of your project, we're being required to put the sidewalk in and the curb and gutter in an open section road. And so, I think if I can just add a little bit of clarity, the traffic report came back and did show that there was little to no impact based on the assumptions as to when the site would be used. Part of our concerns have been there's not enough parking on site, albeit over by the church building, there's ample parking for just about any events. But just like in the example we brought up was Polo Road in Richland County, where there's soccer fields and there's ample parking, but the parking you have to walk a long way to, where the street provides a very convenient place to park. And that's our concern, even during off-peak, that the parking drifts out on the Jenny Lane, parks all along Jenny Lane, where then if we put a sidewalk in an open section, now those folks are parking on the sidewalk. So if you do a curb and gutter sidewalk, all those problems are somewhat resolved, and we can have a little bit of peace of mind that people would be more discouraged to park along the road and more encouraged to park in your parking, the church parking lot and walk the extra distance. So that's some of the thought process behind whittling it down to just the sidewalk as far as an improvement. So, because the traffic study did show that Saturday they'll produce about as much traffic as is actually on Jenny Lane. So ordinarily, there could have been a right turn decel lane required at their access, other improvements, but the numbers are so small that, I mean, those are negated. So for them, that's a benefit.
And based off of Mr. Creed's agreement earlier that they don't intend to use this for public, or I guess for activities other than school-related PE class, where there would be outside traffic during 7 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon, those concerns for decel lane and other things are more moot.
Well, and the other thing that the Jenny Lane's peak hour, the worst peak, is the AM traffic, which certainly we're typically not playing soccer tournaments at 7 o'clock in the morning during the weekday. So certainly we could, see that. There is some bleed over with the PM traffic with their start times, because peak hour is actually 4 to 6, and so when they get started in the 5:30, folks are showing up. There is some still heavy traffic, but it doesn't compare to the AM traffic. So because the schools have all let out, at the 2:30, 3 o'clock time frame. So that's the meat and potatoes of the traffic.
And then, based on that comment, let me ask you this question. Given the fact that they've looked at their peak time, which is a Saturday morning assumption at this point, and not necessarily the 4 to 6 afternoon time frame, which may be a coincide with some of their activities, is that something that would warrant a reevaluation to review that afternoon peak and their impact there potentially? Or
that was reviewed.
Okay.
And it didn't show the need for any
Okay.
improvements.
Okay.
The only thing that, so that, like, you could end up doing something with this site outside of our control. We can't stop you then from having football tournaments at 7 a.m. And so that's some of the, thoughts that they certainly have to consider, that you don't even have control over that at this point to know what the future looks like. So.
Well, but I would, and maybe this is a question for John, I guess, given the discussion we've had this morning and the understanding of what's been presented as far as their potential use and timeframes, should this project change to where they were having larger gatherings during school hours that conflicted with school traffic and created a traffic issue, is that something we could come back and reevaluate the design, maybe road improvements? Should they change their use of the property?
I think once it's permitted, as Randy said, they don't
Okay. Okay. All right.
And so that, you know, that goes into that whole parking thing, you
Mhm.
know, where if you're only using a couple fields, yes, the parking is ample, but, you know, as there's baseball games and, you know, it's a beautiful facility, you know, football practice and, you know, whatnot all at the same time, there's no policing, there's no control of that parking. That's our concern. So hopefully that helps.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Based on all the discussion and my concern as well as everybody's up here, I make a motion that we approve the site plan with the condition being that the sidewalk is installed in the right of way in accordance with DOT standards. If they can come back to us and prove that DOT will not allow the sidewalk to be installed in the right of way, you would need to supply us with that information and verified through our staff here at Town Hall.
All right. Well, I guess, Brad, help me out. Since the ordinance requires a sidewalk, other than if it's approved, I guess we just, our motion potentially would be, you know, we approve the site plan with the addition of the sidewalk as required by ordinance. And if it can't be done, then they pay into the fund.
Yeah, if they show you some, probably written verification that it can't be done, then you go the
Okay.
other direction.
I also want to add that should this, in accordance with the ordinance, I want to at least make sure it's noted that if it's denied by DOT, that they must, you know, the ordinance says they pay in the fund, but I want on record that they need to pay into the fund.
Okay.
Can we just, one other clarification?
Yes.
The sidewalk's got to be in the right of way, not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that helps with the traffic parking related issues.
Right, with the gutter and the curbs.
All right, so we have a motion for site plan approval with the condition that the sidewalk is constructed in the right-of-way as required by ordinance or payment into the fund if DOT does not, or the road owner does not allow that. We have a motion, do we have a second?
With proof that it's shown from DOT.
Okay, well, Randy and John, I'm sure will make sure that
Yeah.
is provided.
A second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, and that is unanimous. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right, item 2 under new business is annexation of portion of property located at 1120 Old Cherokee Road.
Old Cherokee Investors owns 20.03 acres located adjacent to 1120 Old Cherokee Road and has petitioned to annex portions of the property. The portions to be annexed are shown as parcel A1, which is 16.71 acres, and a 30-foot strip shown across the property on the attached plat. Both portions are depicted on the attached annexation exhibit. The property is currently undeveloped, but these are a part of several parcels associated with the Sterling Bridge subdivision that Mungo Homes is developing. Properties in town near this one are zoned limited commercial and protected residential. Old Cherokee Road is classified as a collector road. Due to the surrounding conditions and the intended use of the property, the recommended zoning for these two parcels is protected residential too.
All right. I have a quick question, John, because we've addressed this, or at least ancillary, we've addressed this several times. From looking at the sketch plan that we have in the back, that this is in conjunction with the next two annexations. But yet that doesn't include but about half of the proposed area that the sketch plan covers. So why are we not doing all of the pieces at one time as part of the master plan?
Well, these annexations that are on your agenda include all of the property except for what's shown on your sketch plan is this back portion here.
Which seems to be half the
It is under contract,
Okay.
but Mungo does not own the property yet, therefore they can't sign the petition.
Okay, all right. I'm just curious, I know we've been through this discussion of trying to bring larger pieces in at one time rather than piecemealing, so I was just curious as to why that was that way.
It is their intention, once they do close, to bring
Get
it
it,
in.
okay. All right. All right, any questions? Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
We have a motion, and that says PR2? Okay.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, next item, item 3, John.
Can we make a correction to that last motion? The motion should be that Old Cherokee Road should also be a collector.
Yes, I'm sorry, I assumed that was,
I know, I just,
yes.
Sterling Bridge Development owns 31.4 acres located at 665 Old Chapin Road and has petitioned to annex the property. These are, this is also on 2 parcels. These are 2 of several properties associated with the Sterling Bridge subdivision. Properties in town near this one are zoned limited commercial and protected residential. Old Chapin is classified as a collector road. And due to the surrounding conditions and the intended use of the property, the recommended zoning classification again is PR2, and the recommended classification of Old Chapin Road is a collector.
All right, any questions?
Motion approved as stated.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, item 4, John, annexation of property located at 1118 Old Cherokee Road.
Lexington County School District 1 owns 37.8 acres located at 1118 Old Cherokee Road and has petitioned to annex the property. New Providence Elementary School is located on the site. Properties in town near this one are zoned limited commercial, and Old Cherokee Road is classified as a collector. Due to the surrounding conditions and the use of the property, the same zoning and road classification is recommended for this property.
All right, so the recommendation is limited commercial.
Limited commercial and old.
And collector. Okay, any questions?
Motion approved as stated.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, last item of business is recommendation to change the ordinance, zoning ordinance to include Corley Mill as part of the town's commercial corridor special overlay district. John?
The Commercial Corridor Special Overlay District requires properties to adhere to the town's architectural and appearance ordinance. This overlay is currently attached to all of the properties on the town's major roadways, and any new properties on these roadways that are annexed are automatically added to the district. Currently, properties on Corley Mill Road are not part of this overlay. Considering the large amount of property that has recently been annexed on Corley Mill Road, the Commission may wish to consider a recommendation to amend the zoning ordinance so that the commercial corridor overlay applies to this road.
All right, and I think that's a smart request. I think that's the appropriate thing to do in this area. It's already part of the county's scenic corridor, and I think that's only appropriate. So, any questions?
So just the folks that are on there now, what time frame do they have, or how does that apply to them? Do they, if they make a change, then they have to?
If they make a change that is greater than 50% of the assessed value of the property, then it would have to fall under it. They're just, you know, doing some minor renovations, and it would, anything newly constructed would automatically have to adhere to that.
Okay.
Now, how will this work with us in the county as well as the scenic corridor as far as?
Well,
buffering the
if the scenic corridor county regulation, I think, would go away because it's now in the town. So the thinking among the staff was, this is a tool that we can use.
Yes.
That would be applicable, that would, you know, provide some of the same criteria that the county scenic corridor does.
All right. Further discussion?
Motion to approve is stated.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand. Thank you, that is unanimous, thank you very much. All right, I think that concludes all of our business items for this morning. Frank was busy today, he earned his pay.
Hey, here is breakfast.
So, all right, any updates? We have a traffic update? Anything? Other than it's still here? Working on it, working on it.
We did get, I guess, what at the State House, they did pass the gas tax. So hopefully we'll get some of that money to help the road improvements around the county.
All right. Anything from council? Ma'am?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. We have a lot going on in town. Thursday night tomorrow is Lexington Live at the Ice House Amphitheater. If you have not been there, it's absolutely wonderful. And the Root Doctors will be there. So it's a fun night, it's free. You can purchase food, and it's just a good time. So I hope to see everybody there tomorrow night for the Root Doctors. Also, our farmers market's going again on Saturdays. I saw a list, there's about 20 vendors signed up for this Saturday. So if you get an opportunity, it's from 9 o'clock to noon. I went a couple of weeks ago when it first opened. There's fresh fruits and vegetables, eggs, meats, and some vendors who have some very nice crafts. So please go visit the farmers market Saturday 9 to noon. We got the Big South Baseball Championship going on here in Lexington, May 23rd to the 27th. And then we are using the Ice House Amphitheater quite a lot. We're very excited about that. There's going to be a Southern Gathering Gospel concert on May the 26th, Chase Martin on May the 27th, and then a Memorial Day concert on May the 28th. So if you haven't been to the amphitheater, it is a jewel in our town. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. Again, as always, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. All right, anything else for the good? Nothing else? Rosemary, glad to see you. I know you, we didn't get to introduce you, sorry. It's all right. All right, anything else from the commission? All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All right, and we are adjourned. Thank you very much for watching the Town of Lexington Planning Commission in action. Again, this meeting was held at 8 a.m. Wednesday, May 17, 2017, and will air several times throughout the week. On behalf of the Planning Commission, I wish you a good day.